We're going to do some serious coverage today, some serious on-the-ground coverage. We're going to venture off, find where the uncommitted delegates are, and we're going to go talk to them about what they're doing and what the DNC has done so far, what this represents. Yeah, hold on. Let me throw this out, and then we'll go. Let's roll. Okay, I see more police presence and also a significant number of media members who are out here interviewing the uncommitted delegates.
Free Palestine! 1, 2, 3, free Palestine! 1, 2, 3, free Palestine!
This is the current uncommitted movement delegate protest. We have Daniel here with the Dig.
I'm the alternate uncommitted delegate, Daniel Denver from Rhode Island, host of the Dig podcast. This is June Rose, who's the uncommitted delegate from Rhode Island. And June has been out here all night alongside other members of the uncommitted delegation, demanding not only, obviously, we want a permanent, immediate ceasefire guaranteed by an arms embargo on Israel. The only way to get a ceasefire is to stop sending the fire. The way to stop having children in Gaza being killed by American bombs is to stop sending American bombs. And at the very least, we need to have a Palestinian American up there on the stage at the DNC tonight. For some reason, it's okay to have the family of an Israeli hostage speak, whose pain is very real. The suffering is very real. We don't want any innocent, we don't want any people to die or suffer. But the fact that there's somehow anyone can go on that stage, basically, except for a Palestinian, is just exemplary of profound anti-Palestinian racism.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and June, comes here from an experience as a Jewish Rhode Islander who spent time in Israel as a child, and I think June has a lot to say about why this is deeply offensive to have a genocide carried out in the name of Jewish people. It's deeply offensive to all of us as an American to have this being carried out in our name and with our tax dollars.
You want to talk about that?
Sure.
Here, you hold it. My arms are starting to get tired.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
We've been out here all night. I think we're at 18, 19 hours. Slept a couple hours on this concrete. But we're out here making demands of a party that claims to represent our values of freedom, justice, and equality. But they choose to apply those values to every single issue besides one. When it comes to Gaza, they apply a different set of values. We become the party of death and destruction. For 2/3 of my life, growing up as an Orthodox Jew, I believed that the occupation of Palestine was necessary in order to protect my safety. I believed that Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza needed to be kept in cages and under military occupation to keep my people, the Jewish people, safe. And then I went to Palestine. I met the people. I went to markets in Nablus, living rooms in Ramallah, coffee shops in Bethlehem. I saw the humanity on the other side of the apartheid wall. And I realized that Palestine needs our voices, because I realized that not one child anywhere in the world needs to die in order to keep me safe. I'm here as a reflection of my Jewish values, because growing up as an Orthodox Jew in Jewish day schools, I learned of the Holocaust at a very young age. And when they taught me about the Holocaust, the lesson that I learned was not that we need to be afraid of what's going to happen to the Jewish people. The lesson that I learned was that we need to stand up against bigotry and hatred and genocide no matter who the victim is. And right now it is Palestinians who need our voices as bombs rain down from the sky with our names printed down the side. It's Palestinians who need us standing up for them when they can't stand up for themselves, when they get no place at this convention, a convention that supposedly stands for diversity and representation, but only one ethnic group is left out. I've never seen a DNC where they said no Irish Americans can speak. I don't remember last DNC, they said next time we're going to leave out Italian Americans, they can't speak. We're asking for one Palestinian American. We didn't even say which one. We gave them a list and we'd be happy to give them a bigger list, whatever they need. One Palestinian American. And they said no. There will be no people from that ethnic group speaking at our convention about human rights and diversity and representation and equality. Where is the justice in that? While bombs rain down from the sky, while 16,000 Palestinian children have been killed in the name of my safety as a Jew, where is the justice in that? It's time for our party to live up to our values, which means an immediate, permanent ceasefire, an arms embargo, which means not one more bomb, and a Palestinian American speaker to speak on the stage to tell the stories of pain and suffering this country desperately needs to hear.
That was brilliant. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Why do you think they said no to you?
No, that's a great question. No, that's a great question. She asked, why do you think they said no to you?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Steal my job for me, sorry.
Some of this is speculation, right? Because we've been making these asks for months. With the DNC, we've been in conversations and negotiations about our asks. And our biggest asks are not about a speaker. Our biggest asks are about policy change to save lives. But we also made some smaller asks. Like, can we just have a Palestinian American speaker share their story? And they said no to that. All they said was, it's a no. That's all they said. So we're left to speculate. And I can tell you from my experience that the reason that I once stood with the Israeli occupation was because I did not see the humanity of Palestinians. And I believe that the powers that be are afraid that if the American people see the Palestinians as human beings who are suffering, who need help, who are living under bombardment, who are living under famine, with entire generations wiped out, with children killed en masse, then we would be empathetic to that cause, that we would come together around this immediate permanent ceasefire and an arms embargo, that we would see change on this issue. So that perspective scares them, so they shield us from it. It's time for that shield to be lifted so that Palestine can be free.
Thank you, June, so much for your activism and for your words here. We're also going to hear from, what's going on, my man?
What's up? How are you?
How are you doing?
Abbas, nice to meet you.
Abbas, you want to hold this?
Sure.
All right. Abbas, can you tell people who you are, what you're doing out here?
Yes. My name is Abbas. I am a little bit bigger than you.
Yeah, you're a bigger dude than me.
I was trying to be the biggest guy here, and you give me a run for my money, but here we are. My name is Abbas Alawieh. I am an uncommitted delegate from Michigan, which means in the Democratic presidential primary, we mobilized over 101,000 voters in Michigan to vote uncommitted as a way of voting for peace and against war and for Palestinian human rights. We knew that this was important to do precisely because our country's policy right now, the policy that unfortunately the Democratic Party supports, is to continue sending weapons to the Israeli military, that the Israeli military is turning around and using to harm and kill civilians, over 40,000 civilians, over 16,000 children, babies. We know that's deeply immoral. It's also deeply illegal. It's against international law. It's against U.S. law, and it's deeply unpopular. The majority of Democratic voters want a ceasefire. The majority of Democratic voters want a stop to the unconditional flow of weapons to Netanyahu's government. And so if we are serious about stopping the bombs, if we are serious about reuniting all those held captive, Israeli and Palestinian, with their families, then we've got to stop sending bombs. It's actually pretty straightforward. That's why we're running a campaign called Not Another Bomb. That's why uncommitted delegates are here specifically asking that our party take this issue seriously. And the flood of support that's coming in from members of Congress for this issue is really important. But there was something really weird that happened yesterday. Like, our policy asks are clear: not another bomb, arms embargo now. We've been pushing those really clearly. And we had like a programmatic ask saying that we want a Palestinian American to speak from the stage. And we thought that was pretty straightforward, especially because the party platform says...
very reasonable. I mean, this is it's bare minimum in terms of like recognition. Listen, they had a border guy, they had a cop guy, okay? They had multiple Trump supporters, like Republicans. They had Bernie Sanders on, and then they followed Bernie Sanders up with J.B. Pritzker, which is fine, like he's all right, but then he talked about how he's a billionaire. And then they had another billionaire. They had a corporate Democratic Party donor up there to showcase how big of a tent they have. But it does kind of feel like this tent is big, with the exception of Palestinian Americans.
But here's how I feel. I've worked in Democratic politics for a while. I'm someone who myself has survived U.S.-funded Israeli bombs. I was a kid in Lebanon in 2006. I was 15. I was certain that my own government's weapons were going to kill me. I was certain of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, I'm asking that kid inside of me, that 15-year-old, hey, what do you need? We need a ceasefire. And you know who does not support a ceasefire? Not a single, not a single Republican federal official in the country. Not Donald Trump, not any of the members of the House, not any of the senators. None of them support a ceasefire. And this is after. And so, that's where we're at baseline. And so, in the Democratic Party, we know that the majority of Democrats support a ceasefire. The majority of Democrats support a stop to the unconditional flow of weapons to Netanyahu. And so we're just saying, the majority of Democrats support this. Certainly, the overwhelming majority of Palestinian Americans support this. And in a party where we say that we value the lives of everyone equally, we should be able to hear from a Palestinian American. We'd be lucky to hear from a Palestinian American. Palestinian Americans are leaders in every kind of movement you can think of.
Of course.
And we would be lucky to hear from them. And if we don't, if they decide not to, which if you're watching at home, I urge you, tweet at the DNC, tell them we should hear from a Palestinian American speaker, tell them not another bomb, that we need an arms embargo now. But if they decide not to, then it's really their loss.
No, absolutely. Obviously the morality of it is clear if you are, not a soulless, bloodless monster. It's a genocide. It's an apartheid. Even when it's not a genocide, it's still an apartheid. And currently it's both. And beyond the morality of the situation, it also plays well for the Democratic Party's election chances. And all it takes is just a little bit of courage. And there's been a lot of courage in the Democratic Party so far in behaving like a competent party and doing certain things that I, at least in my 10 years of covering the rat race, have never seen from the Democratic Party. Swapping out Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, choosing Tim Walz over the safe choice, which would have been probably Josh Shapiro, in order to lock down Pennsylvania for the Electoral College. These are all good moves that they've made. And obviously, there needs to be a little bit of courage to say that American foreign policy that has continued in this bipartisan manner has to stop. This American foreign policy needs to change in order to even continue the objectives of the American State Department. That's why there's so many State Department officials that have resigned early on in the earlier parts of October, resigning, knowing full well what was about to happen. Urging the American government to create some sort of restraint, some sort of mechanism of restraint, which Joe Biden himself has enforced at different times in 2021. It's just one phone call. But not only is it such a simple ask, not only is it morally the right thing to do, it also will generate a tremendous amount of support from key constituencies in your state specifically, and in other states as well. The blue wall would be impenetrable if this decision was made. There's not a single, and this is something I say all the time, there's not a single person that is a likely Democratic Party voter or in the margins that says, I will only vote for the Democratic Party if Israel continues its genocide and the Democrats follow through on it. There are people like that. There are single issue voters like that, but they live in the Deep South. They're evangelical Zionists. They're the most rabid of the individuals in this country that are actively almost single issue voters on that front, right? But they're not voting for the Democratic Party. There are, however, people, plenty of people, hundreds of thousands of people, and in very important states that say, I will not vote for the Democratic Party unless they put an end to the genocide of my people, unless they put an end to the unlimited weapons transfers, unless they restrain Israel. It doesn't make any sense to me, because I've never seen a situation where it's such an obvious win-win. I can't believe we're talking about it on these boundaries because we're talking about genocide, right? But even then, if you want to make this bloodless political calculation, it's still right there. So,
here's the situation.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah, and here's the situation. As awful and as ungodly as the situation is right now, based on what we are witnessing and what we are reading, Donald Trump has plans to make this a lot worse too. It's hard to imagine that it could get worse, but if you listen to what Donald Trump is saying, he says we should genocide faster, essentially.
Yeah.
He says we should fully annex the West Bank. He says he wants his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to get $1 million condos on Gaza Beach and permanently displace Palestinians, put a couple more dollars in his pocket. It's messed up. And so we think we have an opportunity. Vice President Harris has an opportunity to tell us proactively how she will be different than Trump on this issue. And I think that can help us rebuild that trust with those voters for whom Gaza is a top policy issue and Palestinian human rights is a top policy issue.
Yeah. And I do foresee this becoming a larger problem. I don't know if this is another thing that you've factored in potentially, but like from the perspective of the Democratic Party's like election chances, it's not just about the uncommitted voters. It's not just about people who are like, this is my single issue. This is my family, right? My family's being slaughtered. Of course I want to put an end to that. It's with my tax dollars. But beyond that, you're also leaving on the table in a relatively close election, like the mood in there, you've been in there, the mood in there is crazy. It's ecstatic. Everybody thinks like, oh, it's over. It's done, right?
We can't sweep this issue under the rug, though.
And no, exactly. And I do get this attitude that like, there are people that are obviously pro-Palestine in there, right? There are obviously people who are in favor of a ceasefire.
Yeah.
They represent the majority of Americans, the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party's voter base.
That's right.
Right? But beyond that, there's this attitude where this is like, oh, you guys are the spoilers. You're like spoiling the fun that we're having in there. And two things come to mind. One, I feel that angers me, obviously, because it's ridiculous. But the other thing is, I don't think people should be this excited this early on. I don't think that leaving someone who is unstable, selfish, and has demonstrated his willingness to continue this war for his own personal desire, someone like Netanyahu, in this position to potentially move American troops into the region, as he has done so far, as the American government has done, and potentially pull the United States of America into a larger conflict, would greatly change the electoral calculus. In the minds of many Americans, 50%, more than 50% of Americans don't want to go to war to defend Israel.
And I think we at some point, we as a society have to get to the heart of the issue. If we want a ceasefire, we've got to stop sending the fire. If we want the bombs to stop dropping, we've got to stop sending the bombs. It's actually very simple.
Yeah.
And our own government's policy for decades has been sustaining a very deeply illegal occupation and now an apartheid system that has resulted in the horrors we're seeing now. And so we've got to have this conversation among Democrats, again, among Republicans, among folks who feel like they don't identify with either party. We need a change in this policy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to my audience and to me as well.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for all your work.
Of course.
All right. What's going on?
Everything and nothing.
Uncommitted from Washington?
No, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay, so you're uncommitted from Minnesota.
Yep.
One of the largest uncommitted
delegation.
The largest uncommitted delegation. Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I was shocked that they chose Tim Walz as the VP pick rather than Josh Shapiro. And I do like the Democrat Farmer Labor Party and all of the things that they did with the 1-seat majority that they had.
Yeah, in the
something
Senate,
that
We had 7 in the House, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's something that I've actively covered back when it was happening.
Yeah.
And I was also very excited about this prospect. But as far as I understand, from what I understand, Tim Walz has also been at odds with he has said nice things about the uncommitted movement in his own state, which is definitely unique, especially at the time when I felt like the mainstream media was avoiding talking about the uncommitted movement.
Yeah.
Like they were allergic to like recognizing that this was genuinely a problem for the Democratic Party's future.
Right.
In the come November. He said we have to listen to these guys. These are constituents. They have a voice. They're right. I mean, I don't know if they said they're right, but beyond that, there's been a little bit of back and forth in terms of how he has handled the situation. I know that obviously Minnesota has a large Somali population.
Yeah.
There are some fantastic politicians. The Attorney General Keith Ellison I like. Obviously Ilhan Omar I love. Yeah. And I guess the question is, where do you feel Tim Walz lands on this issue? Do you think he has any sort of power to influence the outcome if he was to be more sympathetic to the Palestinian plight?
Yeah, thanks for all that. I mean, I feel that he was the best choice of the short list, the long list. I'm happy that he is the vice presidential nominee. And yeah, he said what I remember most specifically is what he said after we had nearly 50,000 vote uncommitted on Super Tuesday in Minnesota was that, we're participating in the process. We're voting and we're participating in democracy. And he said it's on us to bring them in. And he is not doing that. He has not met with us as uncommitted.
Yeah.
He is not doing anything to bring us in. Somewhat recently, I am a member of the Free Palestine Coalition. I'm a liaison through some organizing I'm doing to take on Christian Zionism, mostly. That's my personal reason. And so some members that are Palestinian Minnesotans, some members of the Free Palestine Coalition that are Palestinian Minnesotans met with him, and so the meeting was planned, and then they said, we want to talk about divesting our pension funds from specifically Israeli banks and bonds, our state worker pension funds and other public worker pension funds. And then he canceled the meeting saying, I thought I was just here to hear your stories and your stories of pain and about people that have died. So that's not okay. He was not yet named the vice presidential nominee at that point, or presumptive nominee.
Yeah.
But when he says, we got to bring those people in and they're participating in the process, and he's doing nothing to do that, and it's pretty obvious, if you followed along how the decision was made for who's going to be VP, he's really all in on being in a supportive role for the nominee, Kamala Harris, or officially becomes nominee tonight. We had the roll call already. So I think it's time for our governor and the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party to look at what he can do in Minnesota to show that he cares about what's happening and what's happening with hardworking state of Minnesota pension funds, workers' pension funds that are invested in Israeli banks and bonds against state statute. We have state statute that says you cannot invest in any other nation state's banks and bonds other than Canada. There's a path to this.
Take Canada out of there too.
Right? But early in 2022, immediately, there was a divestment from Belarus and Russia with what's going on in Ukraine. This can happen with Israel as well.
Yeah.
So, call us in, meet with us, talk to us about what's possible, what he can do well. He's governor of Minnesota. This is about winning in November. We're proud of the way we do voter turnout and volunteer and get out and knock on doors. I'm one of those people that does a lot of that and gets others too, and I don't feel like I can right now.
Yeah.
And, we're pretty, Minnesotans are excited. Many people are excited. People, like my own sister is stoked. She's a teacher, and she's definitely supportive on this issue. And the thing is, it's been a breath of fresh air that our governor and the vice presidential nominee is saying things in a way that we've just been waiting for someone to frame certain things like this, like just get out of people's bedrooms, like you're talking about freedom, and just like really plain spoken kind of folksy messaging that people are really latching onto. And he's rightfully calling out Republicans and using the word weird, and that's great. Like, it's cool. People because these horrible policies and ideas they have to take away people's freedom, and just some of it is truly weird. But I'll tell you what's weird, Governor Walz, Vice Presidential Nominee Walz. What is weird is to say ceasefire and keep sending the fire. That's weird. It's not a good look. You're a teacher. You know better. You taught students, learners in Mankato, Minnesota, the site of 38 people being hung on the same day the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. You taught them about genocide. You taught them. You know better. You know better, and it's time to step up and right that wrong of the legacy of Minnesota and the Dakota slaughter and genocide there. Stop being weird. Stop sending the fire and saying ceasefire. That is a direct contradiction, and you know better. You know that's a bad look. Got to stop the bombs, stop the money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Actually, I do have one other question. What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Uncommitted Delegate, Missouri, Michael Burke.
Nice to meet you. The thing I wanted to ask you about is, I feel like I'm Muslim. I'm Turkish. I'm a white guy, but my name is Hasan, right? Yeah. I can't really escape that in America. Sometimes it comes up, usually at the TSA line, right? Yeah. Having said that, I always have, I guess, a special place for American politicians who are not from that background, who do stand by their Muslim constituents. Yeah. And Tim Walz historically has done that, both in terms of defending Keith Ellison, both in terms of defending Ilhan Omar, both in terms of defending the Somali population in Minnesota. So, and pairing that up with his background as a teacher who did teach his students about genocide.
He did, yeah.
About how certain types of genocide are not even covered in the same severity. Like this is not like normal from a person that I would ever see at the top of a ticket. You know what I mean? As a vice presidential candidate.
That's true.
So it makes me feel like there is an inherent contradiction there, and I don't know how he could be the same person who did all of this stuff in his past, who simultaneously is now staying silent.
Yeah, he's effectively been silent other than those nice words on Super Tuesday. And yeah, we're talking about someone who is clearly white, state champion football coach, high school teacher, you know, proud of working in the lunchroom. And yeah, he has stood with our
and he stood
those that are oppressed, you know, and all the communities you name that we have a very diverse, vibrant immigrant and refugee population in Minnesota. And he has stood up in support of that, you know, in his career leading up to getting elected to Congress and as a governor, and now he's silent. And that is very disappointing, and it's certainly not the way to win in November, and it's certainly not the way to keep this one Minnesota that he ran on as governor in 2018 going, and to keep the progress and the celebrating that we're seeing from our 2023 legislative session. So it's shocking, it's concerning, it's time to change on this. One thing about our governor and the vice presidential nominee that we've seen is that he's been willing to evolve, he's been willing to dig in and listen on, for example, the issue of guns, and he's been talking about that quite a bit. He had an A rating from the NRA, and then he was challenged, and he moved on that issue.
Yeah.
So he's shown his ability to evolve, and he really has to evolve in like an hour so that we can get a speaker up on stage. And hopefully he's doing that, and if so, it's time to be public. He needs to evolve quickly. We don't have much time today with what's left of the DNC and what kind of message is going to be sent to our Muslim and our Arab and our community in Minnesota, let alone nationally. Now it's national stage, Governor. Let's go.
I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your work. Nice to meet you. Hi. Nice to meet you. Alaikum salam. All right, so tell the chat who you are and what you're doing here. You can look at me. You can look at the camera. It's all good. We're freestyling. It's not that serious. It's not like there's only like 40,000 people watching. Don't worry.
You're right. Great. Thanks a lot. Okay. My name is Sabrina Alda. I'm an uncommitted delegate from Washington State. And I'm here to advocate for my people. I'm Palestinian American, and so I'm here to amplify the voices of Gaza.
So, have you been participating in the demonstration so far?
So we have been sitting here since 8:30 last night. I have not slept since then. So, but you know, it's the least we can do. We want to make sure that there is enough room for us in the Democratic Party, that Palestinian voices are represented, and that we really hold true to what our voters sent us here to do and create space for Palestinians.
Okay, perfect. Were you one of the people that wanted to speak, potentially?
No.
No?
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't do it?
I wouldn't do it.
What would you say if you got up there?
I wouldn't do it because I'm gonna tell you why I wouldn't do it. There are so many more qualified Palestinians and also Palestinians who have gone to Gaza and served there in the last 10 months that I think the world needs to hear from. It's not about us as individuals. It's about amplifying the voices from Gaza and what's happening there. So it's not about me, but whatever I can do in this movement to like get to that mission, that's what I'm here to do.
Okay. Do you think the Democratic Party is going to be responsive to the very reasonable demands you guys are making out here today?
I think it would be a grave mistake not to. I think that I'm holding out hope that they will see us and they'll hear us and they'll allow space for Palestinian voices in the party.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for your time.
What's going on, brother?
Another uncommitted delegate.
Okay.
Cori Bush is coming home. He's gonna come home.
Oh, all right, perfect.
Not right away, but
No, it's all good. Here you go. Tell the people who you are. What do you do? You're saying you're also single and ready to mingle.
Oh my God. Yo, I'm uncommitted and I'm good with it. All right.
Yeah. He's uncommitted on every aspect.
I'm uncommitted on everything except yeah.
All right. So where are you uncommitted from?
My name is Yaz Kader. I'm an uncommitted delegate from the state of Washington.
Hell yeah. What do you do?
I'm actually a registered nurse. I worked for 9 years out of level 1 trauma. I got my master's degree, and now I work in healthcare regulatory data. Isn't that fun?
That sounds awesome.
Dude, it is boring. Yeah.
That's also, you're Palestinian American.
I'm Palestinian American.
Typical.
Born in
Just, every Palestinian American I've ever met is like engineer,
healthcare,
doctor, healthcare. Just,
you know what
what's up with Palestinians? Why do they study so much?
So you know what we need to do though? We need to get Palestinians in politics, right?
I agree.
Because of stuff like this, like Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, we need to get somebody in there to help her out. Right?
Absolutely.
Like she can't be in there alone. Next time Netanyahu's in there, she can't be sitting in there alone. We gotta get somebody in there to help her out.
I agree. Absolutely. How did that make you feel when Netanyahu got a standing ovation from the entirety of the Republican Party and like half the Democratic Party as a Palestinian American?
Dude, I mean, first of all, him being there, a foreign government's leader who is committing a genocide.
Yeah.
Being invited.
International war criminal, by the way, like a recognized war criminal at this point, but we don't abide by the Rome Statute.
So it's absolutely crazy. You know what hurt me is actually like that thought that I just didn't like that her as a Palestinian, she was there alone. Like, that's what actually hurt me is that she was sitting there alone. And I think with everything that's been going on, we Palestinians, like, you just talked to Sabrine. I got my brother Rami here. Where's Layla? We got Abbas. So, like, go for it.
Anadolu Ajansı. You see this? The Turks. Bu Türkler hep böyle.
Yeah, so we just can't let her be alone. We gotta figure that out, and that's what hurt me the most. Obviously, the symbolic just nature of him being there is stupid and quite honestly kind of shitty. But her being alone is what bugged me.
Okay, let me ask you this: as a Palestinian, look, I'm Turkish. I grew up in Turkey. So I've always had a very different analysis of Israel than I guess my American counterparts now. Like I had a very different attitude about it, despite the fact that Turkey also is a vestige of American imperialism. It's a NATO nation and also is a funder and facilitator of Israel in different meaningful ways, but we won't get into that right now. I feel like I've been an outspoken advocate for Palestinian emancipation for 10 years in my professional media career at least. And I have never seen such support in the Western world until this last year, where I feel like in the midst of all of this chaos, in the midst of all this death and destruction, in the Western world there has been an active movement for the first time ever that recognizes the humanity of Palestinians. And I was wondering, as a Palestinian, do you also see it? Does that make you feel at least a little bit more hopeful when things seem so hopeless?
I think that if you had asked me this question yesterday at this time, it would have been a lot more hopeful. Because the uncommitted delegates here, like the Palestinians, we're outnumbered, right? We have Pakistani, we have definitely American, we have Jewish allies. And so it's been wonderful seeing people come together saying, yo, we don't want to support this anymore. It's not good. But the issue is actually in here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have 4,500 delegates. Guess what, dude? All of them, they see me wearing kufiyah, they say, hey, brother, we love what you're doing. We like that you believe. Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. We like what you're doing, and we support how you're doing it even, right? People just say, we support how you're doing it.
But they don't come out here.
I mean, sometimes they do, they come and mingle, and that's okay. Look, dude, I've said this is not a 1 or 2 situation. This is 1 and 2. You can support Harris and support a ceasefire, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is support for a ceasefire and show that it matters for Harris. That's how she's gonna win. And so I have actually, over the last 3 days, I had a lot of hope talking to the delegates. But yesterday, the Democratic National Convention said they would not allow a Palestinian speaker. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. They go from 4 o'clock to 10:30 at night, and they said they don't have 5 minutes for a Palestinian.
They put a border patrol guy up there, bro. They put a border patrol guy up there. They put Trump supporters up there.
Somebody was telling me the Uber CEO of Uber.
Yeah, they had I think the Amex guy up there to talk about being a billionaire. It's it's ridiculous.
And yesterday they had the family of an Israeli hostage go up there and speak, and listening to them speak, listening to their suffering. It's important for us to listen so that we can empathize with one another. I don't know what the uncommitted folks or anybody else would think about it, but I honestly think the best way to have handled this is to bring both families up there together, really show the unity. I still kind of want to hold out hope that some sort of common sense will come through so that we can get what we want. I know the people want to hear from a Palestinian in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is, I was a little shocked seeing like how many people even in the bubble, because this is not representative of, ironically enough, it's not representative of like the broad majority of Democratic Party voters even. Yeah, I feel like when you're in there, it's a different world.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting. I mean, over 80% want a permanent ceasefire. Over 60% want to, like, at the end of the day, people, they don't want to pay to kill babies, right? We shouldn't be making bombs, sending them to Israel so that they can kill Palestinian babies. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something? All right, you're a brown guy. Like, stuff like this, like seeing this, like our country support Israel to this level, like, do you feel a little bit unsafe? Like, just a little bit, because I personally, like, knowing that there's probably 200,000 dead Palestinians supported by this country, like, I personally feel a little bit unsafe in this country now.
There was a moment, I'll tell you this much, there was a moment when, ironically enough, things have changed dramatically now, but Dr. Oz was going up against John Fetterman.
Right.
Mehmet Oz.
Yeah.
And he was the Republican,
yeah.
Right? And, John Fetterman is a goon and a sociopath, but, and, that's what happens. I guess he got hit with the stroke gun. That makes you pro-Israel.
Yeah.
More pro-Israel. He was already pro-Israel.
Yeah, he lost the Palestine.
Yeah. But basically, that moment for me, I was like, that's a Sunni Muslim dude on the Republican side of the ticket in Pennsylvania. Like, what happened to the post 9/11 like Islamophobia? Like, did it completely go away in this country? And for a moment, I was like, I think it's gone. Like, I think it's like a different era.
Yeah.
And then post October 7, I was like, oh no, it never went away. It was like people put that back on so quick.
Yeah.
And it definitely sucks because, like, look, you said I'm a brown guy. Like, I am a very white passing dude.
Sure.
And I say I'm white all the time. Like, I am white, And for me, unless I'm at the TSA, that's different. But for me, I have a lot of privilege in the intersectionality. On the aspect of intersectionality, I have a lot of privilege. I'm a tall, white dude. I'm cis, I'm heterosexual.
Yeah.
And I try to always use that juxtaposition to advocate for social justice for marginalized people. This is the one issue where people immediately write you off though.
Yeah.
Like, you're Muslim, you're Turkish, you're Islamist fundamentalist, you want to throw gays off the roofs, by dudes who literally do want that. You know what I mean? Oftentimes on the other side, it's like dudes who are right-wing reactionary monsters.
Right.
Who are homophobic, who do want to kill gay people and trans people, being like, got them. You just love, you're this, you're that, and they just write you off. There's no like seeing your humanity. Like there's no reasoning with you in that regard. It's one of the only instances where I feel that. So I guess on that front, I do get it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel unsafe, but I can understand why you would feel unsafe. I mean, holy shit, you have both parties being like, we're gonna melt your family. It doesn't matter to us. And October 7, Hamas, over and over again.
I appreciate that, right? Because at the very least you acknowledge that. And Vice President Harris, you could at least acknowledge it, right? It's just like, there's such a disconnect between what the Democratic base wants and what the elected wants. And all they have to do is listen. Like, that's all they have to do is just listen, acknowledge, and then do the right thing.
I think they're just straight up riding the momentum of Kamala Harris and the ticket swap and everyone's excited about it. And I mean, this was something that I called for originally as well. I said I would never vote for Joe Biden, no matter what.
So what about Kamala now?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'll vote for Kamala Harris because I'm waiting to find out what her what her background looks like, what her actual policy positions are going to look like. We're just reading the tea leaves at this point. We don't have any way of understanding exactly what she stands for.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone who covered her pretty closely in 2019. And back then it was like her track record in the Senate was obviously very progressive, but that didn't mean anything because it was under a Trump administration.
Right.
Where she knew she couldn't get anything done anyway, and many Democrats routinely vote for like really progressive stuff.
So like for you, how far like up on that scale for her would be like Gaza Israel policy? Because
I'm not the average voter.
Right.
So it doesn't like I understand that.
Yeah.
I try to understand where the average voter is coming from when I talk about these sorts of things, and I know that it's not high on the totem pole for them. Like I don't think it's not an equation unless it gets back in their face. So I think like this kind of stuff is important because this kind of pressure is really important. Students are going back to college. Yeah. If the encampments start coming back, police are probably going to crack down on that. That's going to
censorship.
That's going to come back into the forefront. That is going to be something that Kamala Harris has to address. That she has to carry everywhere with her. So I'm a massive advocate for what you guys are doing here. I'm a massive advocate for obviously the protests. Like it's. I see a lot of people saying, you know, all right, cut it out, guys. Come on. Like, what are you doing? Like, Trump is going to be so much worse. It's like, yeah, that's the same equation with Joe Biden, too.
Yeah.
Like, that was the same exact thing in terms of, like, American foreign policy.
Yeah.
Something that we're paying for with our tax dollars.
Yeah.
It's just so... I mean, it's a partisan W, tackling it from, like, the perspective of partisanship and being like, this is the Republican issue. They're crazy on it.
Yeah.
We want to heal America. We want to fix America. We want to fix the potholes. We want to give you health care. We want to give you education, free education. We are not interested in unlimited genocide dollars. We're going to take that money and we're going to use it on ourselves. Like, that is such an easy narrative to just put out there.
Dude, she could do it like you're saying. We're going to find out probably more tonight where her policies are. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's
But we're finding out right now if they don't let a single Palestinian American speak, I think that's pretty indicative of where they stand in terms of like, yeah, we'll say.
I mean, I want to see the Palestinians speak for 5 minutes, so yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you, my man.
Very nice to meet you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, can I say salam alaikum to you?
Yeah, alaikum salam. Can I say salam alaikum to you? Yes. So who are you? What are you doing out here? Tell the camera.
Yeah, my name is Asma Muhammad, and I am the co-chair of the Minnesota delegation of uncommitted delegates to the DNC. And I ran the Minnesota campaign.
You guys did a phenomenal job.
We literally used $5,000 of the $20,000 we raised and got 46,000 votes in 8 days.
That's insane.
8 days.
That's insane. Do you feel like the media snubbed you guys a little bit? Like, do you think that there was adequate coverage?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah, they
I was very mad. I didn't think they covered it enough.
I mean, maybe, but I felt like they were like constantly harassing me to find out
you're
more.
Close to it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was getting calls constantly.
Yeah, from a watcher perspective, I'm a news watcher.
Yeah. I'm sure you have a different perspective.
I felt as though they were just like, it was they kind of covered it. They're like, yeah, these guys are uncommitted. All right, move on. You said you disagree. Why do you disagree with what I said earlier? If they don't allow a Palestinian American to speak up there, it's like I think a pretty big message.
I mean, no, I think it is a big message, but I also think that there still is. I'm a hopeful person and I'm pragmatic, and I still think I'm trying to remember that my community, our community, has the most to lose with the Trump presidency. I'm a Muslim woman who has faced hate crimes under the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, absolutely, I want to see a Palestinian American speaker on stage. But what I think is really their loss is that a majority of Democrats support us in this.
Yeah.
A majority of Democrats support a ceasefire and arms embargo. So it's not the Democratic the people. It's not the Democrats that are against it. It's the party leadership.
Yeah.
So I think that's who we need to hold accountable. Not, I think the party, the people of the party, by and large, I've been getting like hundreds of messages today of people saying like, oh, around the world. My friend Khalid in Gaza sent me a message today thanking me for what we're doing.
Yeah, no,
which is incredible.
they're locked in. They watch this stuff pretty closely.
Like Gaza is watching right now as we sat in. We slept on the pavement tonight, and it was hard. And the thing that I couldn't help but think about is that people in Gaza have been sleeping in tents for 300 plus days. My friend Khalid has been displaced 3 times.
No, I feel you. I mean, you're right. Thank you so much. Hello.
Hey, fine. How are you?
I'm a big fan.
Oh, I'm a fan of yours.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. Thank you so much for being here, Cori. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
You know, it's a historic moment, but hopefully it's historic in the way where we can see a great change and momentum for everyone, where we can all join in and be proud.
Yeah. How do you feel about, obviously, like, you know, AIPAC backed big donors that played a significant role in your primary race?
It's absolutely disgusting. You know, it's disgusting. It was deceptive. All right. And, you know, the thing is, when you can't run on truth, when you have to run on $1 million lies, that speaks to who you actually are. And this is not about one organization either. This is about a system that allows for this, you know, so whether it's AIPAC or the NRA, you know, whether it's the cryptocurrency people, whoever. So for me, we have to do the work to fight this system. We have to fight this system, because what happened in my race was primarily Republican MAGA donors decided who was the Democratic nominee for this seat. And the people of St. Louis deserve better.
Absolutely. You're a fighter for your people. These people out here, the uncommitted delegates, also did something that you've done as well in the past. They stayed out here and they slept outside to hopefully get the Democratic Party to listen to them. You were successful in making Congress, I think, extend the
yes, absolutely, eviction moratorium.
The eviction moratorium. After, for those of you who don't know, Cori stood outside of Congress, and when they were trying to go home, and they love going home.
Yeah,
they love going on vacation, and worked tirelessly and protested outside of Congress to ensure that the eviction moratorium was halted or extended.
Yes, it was extended. We were out there for four nights and 5 days. And actually, Hasan, the person who was with me when I made the decision to just like, okay, we're just going to stay here, was Abbas Alawieh, the same person who is one of those leading this movement.
Hell yeah. What do you think about the intersectionality? This is like kind of silly, but there's a lot of conversation on TikTok nowadays, which is such a ridiculous thing to ask someone like yourself, but a lot of people are confused. They think that, there's this sentiment that like, oh, the pro-Palestinian movement is like anti-black because they're like, not with Kamala Harris or things of that nature, right? And I wanted to ask you how you feel about that, because like I go to these protests all the time. These are some of the most diverse protests I've ever attended. And they've always been. Yes. And obviously Palestinians have been at the forefront as well, and Muslim Americans have been at the forefront of Black Lives Matter movements as well. I just wanted to hear what you had to say about the intersectionality and how these struggles diverge in very meaningful ways.
Yes. So first of all, I'll start with the fact that in my community, Black Muslims are working directly with our Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian community, and have been on this issue. So locally, they have been hand in hand working together. But I have to take this all the way back to where it started. It was the Ferguson Uprising, when a delegation of Palestinians came to the United States, to Missouri, to St. Louis, to Ferguson to help us protest and to help us protest, but also they were mainly there to teach us what to do when we were tear gassed. This was 2014, before all the information was out there.
This is when Barack Obama was like, they're thugs.
It was really a tough time, and so that solidarity was there then. And I remember asking them, Hasan, I remember saying, why are you doing this? Why are you putting yourselves on the line? We're being tear gassed, shot with rubber bullets, all of these things. And they said, because we understand oppression in our country. We know what this is like, and we don't want anyone else to go through it. And so we locked arms and stood together then. So that solidarity is there, but that solidarity was there during the civil rights movement. This is nothing new. My auntie, my auntie who I love, the Dr. Angela Davis, speaks about it so much, and so So we have to stand together, and standing together at this time, it's about humanity. You know, how can I have no idea, Hasan, what it's like to wonder if a bomb is going to hit my community. I have no idea what that's going to be like, and I hope I never do. But for those that do, I should be there to help them the same way that many Palestinians said, you know what, we don't know what it's like to suffer in this country, to suffer what black people go through in this country. We don't know what that's like here, you know, the same way. We don't know what it's like to be killed by police with impunity, you know, disproportionately. So in the same way, we should be standing for one another.
And obviously the issue goes beyond, there is a direct involvement when you have, in the post 9/11 world in the United States of America, the IDF training police departments all around the country. You have the New York Police Department having an office in Tel Aviv. Like, this is a direct issue. It's sometimes the exact same struggle that Black Americans, people of color in this country experience in terms of police brutality.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes the tactics and the techniques are directly taught by the IDF and applied to the Palestinian population.
And it's boasted. It's boasted that, you know, from some police departments that they went and received that training. And so that was hurtful for us during the Ferguson uprising to see our local police force speak to that in that way. It's one thing to get the training, it was another thing to boast about it.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Well, thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you, Hasan.
And I hope that you'll continue and get back into Congress.
All right.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
Thank
Chat,
you guys so much.
look who it is.
Hey, creator.
Look who it is. Are you a creator?
Do you get to hang out in the
I'm the
creator
original
lounge?
creator.
I do.
You know, they used to preference us bloggers, and now they preference you guys.
The man, the myth, the legend, okay? Mr. Laptop Salesman himself. Daniel Dayen, the American Prospect, for those of you who don't know, I don't know. I mean, he's been on the show multiple times, obviously. Love him. He's also, you might recognize him from The Majority Report. He's on there all the time as well. Question for you.
Yep.
You're a policy guy. You're a domestic policy guy. You love this stuff. You write this stuff.
Yeah.
And I wish that they would listen to you more. But do you feel like, I mean, this is not going to be about Israel-Palestine in particular, but like, do you feel like there is this a different Democratic Party than the one we know and the one we kind of despise?
Look, I came down because I wanted to, you know, see what was happening here and see, you know, what the grievances are and what. I think it's ridiculous that they haven't put up a Palestinian speaker. They, you know, the idea is, oh well, the convention has to be joyful and happy and everything. Well, what were the Israeli?
Well, yeah, you had the Israeli hostage families on. Yeah.
You either do both or none, right?
Also, let me tell you, I don't feel joyful when I see a Border Patrol guy go up there to be like, oh, we got to do less deportation than Trump, but still do some deportations. Like, I don't. That didn't give joy to me at all.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, it's a convention. They're trying to play to the 8 idiots that are in the middle that are trying to figure out, you know, who to vote for.
But in terms of policy, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Because it's a lot of vibes. This is like just, you know, economic policy, things of that nature. Do you feel like it's different? Do you feel like they are... Like the Tim Walz selection, it made me feel as though they were like owning some of this stuff. Yeah. Some of this radical stuff, like paid family leave, you know. And
there's some hope to that.
Feeding children.
And also some of the key advisors that the campaign picked up are people who worked with Elizabeth Warren, who worked in the Biden White House on, you know, some of the good industrial policy stuff. I think they have this big agenda. I just wrote this story at prospect.org. Check it out. They have a big agenda.
Yeah.
They want to restore Roe. They want to pass voting rights legislation. They want to do paid family leave. They want to do, you know, childcare, all that stuff. And the question is, the rules of the Senate right now prohibit them from doing any of that.
Yeah.
Because of the filibuster.
Yeah.
And I've been going around. I've probably asked maybe 15-20% of the Democratic Senate caucus about this. And
that's why I wanted to ask you this
I've
question.
gotten a variety of answers.
You're a nerd.
So, you know, some people say, oh, we have a plan, we'll figure this out. First we'll pass the Roe thing, and then after you do it once, it's like, what are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, well, it was important for women, but it's not important for African Americans for voting, or it's not important for kids for gun safety. But then other people have said, well, there are a range of views in the caucus, and we'll see what we can do. You know, you can't simultaneously promise to change America and then not promise to change the rules that prohibit you from changing America.
One thing I saw from Kamala Harris in the rallies that I think is really unique in terms of messaging was that she didn't say, if I get into the White House, we're going to make this change. She said, if I get into the White House and we get the Senate and the House, like then we will be able to push
that's
this.
important. That's the only way you have a governing moment. But then the step beyond that is to change the rules to make sure you can actually pass that stuff. Now, I was in Las Vegas at the back end of the Harris Walls barnstorming tour. It was 109 degrees there, and there were 16,000 people outside. There's obviously a ton of excitement and relief that we don't have to vote for Joe Biden, that we don't have to defend Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You know, there's a ton of excitement.
But I do feel like they're kind of using that excitement to...
As a shield.
As a shield to avoid talking about certain things, specifically this one.
Well,
I do also worry, like this one meaning Israel-Palestine. I do also worry a little bit that like they're using that momentum to be like, oh, we shouldn't go even further and like try to pick up even more steam or more momentum. It's good. We got it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is the concern. I mean, you're preaching to the choir when you're here. There's not a single person in this hall that's going to vote for Donald Trump. The question is, are you doing the work that needs to be done to bring in other people and find the voters who are considering not voting?
Yeah.
People maybe that watch you.
Yeah.
That are considering not voting.
A lot of people, they're voting for Trump, my voters. My chatters.
All in for RFK, and now they're moving.
Now that you nailed it. How did you know? Yeah, they were. Once RFK drops out and says, you know, I'm riding with Trump, they're going Trump.
There you
All
go.
of them.
There you go.
All right. Have responsible leadership at HHS.
Yeah. Or the CIA, apparently, according to Donald Trump Jr., who's a crackhead. Who keeps. Thank you so much.
You got it, man.
We are here with David Dayen, Hotties for Harris.
Hotties for Harris? Yeah, I was there.
A hottie for Harris.
I was there. No, I had to pretend I was running a hype house. That's the only way they would let me in.
Yeah, I mean, it's you could. You look the part. All right, can I get the mic back?
You got it.
Grab it real quick.
Take it.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much for coming down here.
Okay.